Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Pro Volley 101 series. In the last episode, we covered agents and teams, just what their roles and responsibilities are, what you can kind of expect from both, and then how you could start contacting agents. Now, I do want to say at the end, there's a little bit about peers and how you should start building your network already. One of those, the biggest kind of takeaways that I was trying to get from that, which I tried to squeeze into the end there, was that if you start communicating with players that have done what you want to do or that are doing it right now, you start communicating with many of them, you start to up your chances of both knowledge and about getting your name out there, because you'll hear of jobs sooner, you will know what's kind of going on in the volley world, so you'll make decisions better. But in this episode, really what we're dealing with is college versus pro team differences. What are the main things that are going to change from you going from college volleyball, so amateur volleyball, to professional? So I'm here to help you with that today. Alright, so there are 5 key areas that I want to talk about today that will help you understand how to transition from the amateur to pro mentality about teams and how that whole system works. First, you're going to have to change your mindset. This means that you're going to have to transition from a fun, amateur, playing every day, not the most important, but maybe one of the most important, like heart-wise things that you do, but you have this whole life surrounding volleyball, and volleyball is not the end-all and be-all. Well, you definitely have to switch, because now you're going from this is something that got you into college, or maybe you just play while you're in college, maybe you are a walk-on, who knows, but at some point when you turn into a key player that could go play professional, you probably got a scholarship, and so you were basically getting rewarded for your skill. Well, when it turns into a job, you get rewarded in terms of money, right? You have to realize that everything is on the line. Now, if you're not playing well, if things are going, you're sick, you're injured, you become one of those people who might need to be let go. So you have to switch from this mentality. So there's a few things. Your job is now your job. You're expendable, which means that they can change you out. They can find new players. You're not part of the college system. Like, you're not there just because or also because you're an academic. You're there because you're a volleyball athlete and that you're better than all of the rest of their country's players. 24/7, you have to think that everybody's looking at me like I'm an athlete, because they are. They're thinking, this is an athlete, they came here for that, that's what they are. They're gonna define you as an athlete, so you need to be ready for that. Also, you have to be ready that you need to play sometimes when you're sick, when you're injured. You have to, and I mean play well, so it's not like you can just play, you have to perform. It's very, very, very important. And you have to remember that losses equals lost money or lost support for that team, which is a business, and now that means a lot of stress for the people who run that and the people who are employed by that team. Depending on how that team runs things, or how the coach is, or how the manager is, that could mean meetings where they're yelling, screaming, whatever, or that could mean they handle things professionally and just kind of like put a lot of pressure on you. So, second thing. Alright, the second part is before season. What do you need to think about before you actually go to a team? You have to remember that off-season is now your responsibility. You have to make sure that you're in shape and that you're in form. 2 huge things that you don't have a chance to do anymore, because maybe 1-2 years, if you really got along with the strength and conditioning staff at your school, you might be able to squeeze some more programs out of them, maybe longer if you're lucky. But most cases you won't be able to, so you're gonna have to hire those people or do it yourself. Also, you gotta realize that going into the season, you're signing for probably 1 year, maybe 2 years. It's not a 4-year commitment anymore, which means that you're going for this season, this 8 months or this 6 months or this 3 months, depending on what team you're going and what time of the year you're going. And that's all you get. And maybe there won't be more with that team, so you have to be prepared to be going from team to team, unless you get lucky and the team has done everything and you like it, and then you found this perfect match and you can keep going with them. But be prepared for that season to season. And then preseason, you have to expect that when you get there, before season starting, you're not going to be used to the way that they run things, and it's going to be different. You have to be very open-minded, but you also have to know how to take care of yourself, because if they don't have a team physio, you need to know, like, how do I handle this strain, or this sore legs, or this ab something. You need to know how to do this and be prepared for that. So number 3. All right, so number 3, this ties right in to kind of that last little part about preseason training. So you're arriving to the team, okay? When you arrive to the team, there are a few different things right off the bat, right? Everything's gonna look different environmentally, but also the language is gonna be different. So you have to prepare for that. You have to be prepared for this mindset of, a lot of the times I'm not gonna understand what's happening, and I'm not gonna be able to communicate perfectly what I would like to communicate. And you need to do something about that. So it's good to get a base level of understanding of that language wherever you're going to go. You're also going to have less support on this team than you had on your college team, because your college team, you have your coaches, you have the head coaches, you have the assistant coaches, you have the physio, you have the strength and conditioning coach, you might have other people on the staff, you have like the team manager, you have all these different people, plus you have the school and their admin and everybody and your teachers, and you have this whole support system, this like ecosystem there. Well, you're not going to have that. So you have to get used to having less support and know how to leverage certain people in order to get the support you need. Definitely expect less quality facilities. We have some of the most amazing facilities in America, and you're not going to get that all the time abroad. Gyms will be small, they might be old. You definitely won't have all of the great medical equipment, like in the physio and the trainer's room. You won't have all that stuff. You might not have ice baths. You might have to do that at home. There's a lot of things that could change depending on what team you go to. Granted, there are some with great things, but trust me. Last thing is culture shift. It is a huge cultural shift when you go to these teams, because now you're dealing with people who have done things differently their entire lives than you, and you the same, right? So you have to get used to that, and you have to do your homework and be prepared for that. But this is a huge change in the dynamic on how you train and how you learn and how you recover and how you just generally are happy, because now you're in a different world. So it's good to like brush up on that stuff beforehand, maybe try and connect with the team, the players, like ask the coach or the manager, hey, once I've signed this contract, do you think I could get the Facebook of the other players on this team and start to connect with them and maybe start some kind of relationship just a little bit, so when you come, you have a head start. All right, number 4. All right, number 4 is training. Training is going to change. Some of your teams, you might have had double days. You probably haven't had double days that were long like they will be when you're professional, especially at the higher levels. So generally, I'm trying to speak at the highest level of pro, and definitely when it goes down in level, it's going to be less of a load. But you're going to have 2 trainings a day, sometimes 3. That could mean that you're training, for instance, anywhere from an hour and a half in the morning to 2.5 hours. Maybe you have a weight session after that or in that period. And then in the afternoon, you have something that's probably going to be around 2 to 3 hours long. And then you have to imagine that you're usually showing up as a professional 30 minutes before training. And if you really want to be on top of things, you probably want to be there, 40, 45 minutes before. So definitely expect that, and that's going to be 5 to 6 days a week depending on the league that you're in. Also, you're expected to know it all once you get there. So the little tweaking on skills, you're going to look maybe for guidance, and it's not going to be there most of the time. And it's not because of communication, it's because the coaches are expected to lead a team of players that already know how to do these things to that championship final, et cetera, et cetera. So they expect you to have that foundation there. So don't expect that kind of coaching. So be ready to get video, do your feedback alone, and also maybe hit up your coaches back home and say, hey, can you check out this video? But you're gonna have to get good at self-analysis. And also you're gonna have to be forward to the coach and say, hey, I'm interested in learning. Like maybe if you see this, you could tell me. Another thing, you're expected to train rain or snow, sick, injured, probably not, but if you're not sick that keeps you in bed or that is contagious to everybody like this, be expected to train. All right, moving on. Last one, number 5. All right, so number 5, this is all about your season. What does season look like abroad, Well, there are 5 areas that I've kind of nailed it down to that are common when you're abroad. And I just want to list them off and then I'll go through them. But basically you have your national league. So that's the league that you play within your country. Then you have your international leagues. You have some that are combined nations, like small countries. Like there's one called MESVA, which is the Middle European Zonal Volleyball Association. Basically, they've made, I think it's 4 or 5 different countries play in a league between the top 2 or 3 teams in each country. So that's in addition to your leagues from your country's matches. Now, not every country does that. There's just a select few. Then there's the national cups. So within your country, you have a cup for that nation and that league. And then you have international tournaments. So what you do with these are international tournaments that are held on for one continent. So the CEV, or the European Volleyball Commission, they have their own tournament. There's the Challenge Cup, the CEV Cup, and the Champions League Cup. In South America, you also have a tournament similar to that. In Asia, you also have the Asian Cup, which also includes some African and or Middle Eastern teams. So you have these different things. And then you have global tournaments. So you have one huge one that they throw for the FIVB, where they have the club championships, the world championships, and they're taking teams from like Europe, Africa, Asia, South America, North America. Sometimes we had Iowa Ice go once. So these are the different types of seasons. So you can imagine that there could be a lot of volleyball played. You could be playing 2-3 matches per week sometimes. So it can get crazy. And we're talking about 7 hardcore months of that. And when you get into playoffs, it can just be wild with the strain, with how many matches and traveling and all of these things. So it becomes a very, very intense period in your life where volleyball takes over everything. So free time, sometimes you might have a ton, and sometimes you might have absolutely none. I hope this episode helped you. Next up, we're definitely going to be talking about a few things. We're going to talk about how to build your own personal team so that you are supported while you're abroad, even if you have to outsource that. I outsource, for instance, my fitness to Reed's Workouts from Canada. I outsource some of my mental training with coaches and psychologists that I met in the States that I keep in touch with via call or via video call, email, whatever. There's nutritionists, all these types of things we could talk about in the next episode. That's going to be episode 4. Thank you so much. If you like this, share, make sure you subscribe. And if you ever have questions, hit me up, Ryan at beyondathletic.com. Ciao, take care.